Okay, hello again. This is now the Tarot Q&A number 8. And today I'm going to look at 3 more cards in a horoscope spread. The three houses, actually. The 4th, the 5th, and the 6th. First, though, over there on the left, I'm going to show you what a layout should look like face down, because it has to do with the fact that cards ought to be vertical. If you lay them in a circle, actually counterclockwise, then they should be they should be vertical, so that when you turn them over, it's clear if the card is upright or reversed. And I'd like to say, even if you don't use reversed cards, use reversed cards, only because you'll find subtleties and complications and indications of things going slowly or not quite working out the way you expected if you take your cue from the fact that the card is upside down. Try it. Okay, so today I suggested before that you lay 12 cards and then turn them over and take a note. So today we're going to look at the 4th, the 5th, and the 6th houses. So that's like 654 in a clock face. So the 4th house goes at the bottom. And the 4th house rules or gives information about the father, the home conditions and home life, and the condition at the end of life. So most people will tell you that the 4th house represents the mother, but it doesn't. So it's one of the parents, but it's more likely to be the father than the mother. And I've got reasons for saying that, but I'll maybe if anybody's interested, I'll tell you. So the 4th is the father, and so I got the 10 of Pentacles here. So my father died years ago, so I don't want to know about him. So it can show my home life at the moment, and I've got the 10 of Pentacles. So I'm probably the old man with the beard, with the grandchild maybe. So if you look at the picture and describe it, then you've got comfortable, settled, liking the outdoors. I'm struggling to think of what to say, partly because this is the thing to remember with a horoscope spread and with your life anyway. You're not equally interested in all areas every day. Like today you might be concerned about a relationship, and then tomorrow's the relationship, but the day after that things have changed. You're not as worried or wondering about that relationship anymore, or at the moment. Maybe you'll come back to it in a month or two, but your focus of your attention has shifted. So this is because there are reasons for this, but the point is that we're not equally interested in all areas of life at the same time. So sometimes you turn a card and you look at it and you won't have much to say about it. And that doesn't mean that you can't read cards or that it's unimportant, but it's just that at this time, for me, the 4th house isn't that important or interesting. And and there's no father to talk about, or mother either. So I can't use that card, that 10 of Pentacles, as for giving information about a parent. And the condition at the end of life, I'm not anywhere near the end of life yet. Okay, so I wrote down things look good. Things are fine. And the other thing I wrote down is that with this coronavirus lockdown, I really haven't noticed that much change, partly because I never went anywhere anyway. I spent most of my time on my own in the basement, looking at YouTube or making videos or reading or doing something. And I don't have that much to do with people. I still walk down to the grocery store and I walk back. there's maybe a bit of a wait at the grocery store, but that's it. So I really haven't noticed. And I haven't been to Toronto, but we usually only go once a month anyway, if that. So basically my life is totally the same as it was before the lockdown. Whereas nowadays you may find that your fourth house is has a card there that's important because it can show you how best to adapt to the current situation, or what you need to change, or what's going well, or what's going badly, given the fact that people are stuck indoors, right? So, but with me, nothing much has changed. The other thing is, the fourth house shows the condition at the end of life, and it can be useful to use the idea of the fourth house if you want the outcome of something. So I wrote down, I've got this Two of Pentacles in the second house, right? So if you have a money-making project, let me get to that when I look at the fifth house. 2, 3, 4, 5. No, I miscalculated there. Okay, so let me. I'm getting mixed up here. So, the fourth house shows the condition at the end of life, but it also shows the final outcome of something. So, if you've got a project, let's say the example I was going to give was a money-making project, and you're not sure if it's going to pay out or pay off or be worthwhile or be valuable. If you then look at the fourth house after the house with the project, it'll give you an idea of how it's going to work out, right? So I've got the Two of Pentacles in the second house and it's reversed, right? So let's say I've got a project that I want to make financially fruitful or financially viable. If I need to know in advance if the project is going to work out the way I want. So the second house becomes number 1. The third becomes number 2. The fourth becomes number 3. And the fifth house becomes number 4. So the card in the fifth house, because it's the fourth after the second, will show the final outcome of the financial project. Do you see what I'm getting at? It can be awkward in the beginning to get the hang of it, but once you know what you're doing, you just renumber the houses. And the fourth house being the condition at the end of life, it's useful to know how things are going to work out. So let's say you've got a new relationship and you want to know, you've just met somebody, you want to know how it's going to work out. The seventh house, which is the partnership, the relationship, becomes 1. The 8th becomes 2, the 9th becomes 3, and the 10th becomes 4. So the 10th house, the card in the 10th house will show the final outcome of that new relationship. So it's useful to sort of talk about the future. I should probably have talked about that with the fifth house, but anyway. The thing is, I also wrote down, it depends what you want to know. So I suggest that the first time when you lay the spread, do it for yourself and then take a look at it and read the cards from the point of view of you, telling about you, your values, your communication, your home, your children, your sickness, the fourth, fifth, and sixth. But then later, maybe you're interested in your partner's different areas of life, your partner's sickness, your partner's children, your partner's communications. So you would then use the same cards, but you would start from a different position and read the chart from that point of view. But it depends what you want to know. And sometimes you're going to find that some houses are kind of boring or irrelevant. So it depends what you want to know. Figure out the question and then look at the house or houses that will give you the answer to your actual question. The other thing is I wrote down the fourth house that we're talking about now is the second from the third, right? Because if you start with the third house, my brother, as number one, then the fourth house, the next house, is going to be his value sense. Because the second house is the value sense, and his income, because the second house shows income. So my brother's older and he's retired. He's been retired for a few years and he lives outside London. And that Ten of Pentacles in many ways describes his values, because he's kind of older and settled and concerned about income, concerned about pensions and how he's going to live or what he does, and so, because he lives on his own. And now with the coronavirus and lockdown, it's kind of awkward for him, more so than for me. But you can look at that Ten of Pentacles for information about my brother's values at the moment, which could be, if I cared, it would be important. But I'm not that really interested in what he cares about at the moment. But some of you might be concerned about your brother or sister and want to know how they're dealing with the current situation, in which case you would look to your fourth house, because that's the second from the third. Brother or sister's value sense. So the fifth house shows children, especially the first child. So if you have more than one child, you look to two houses beyond that. I'll get to that with later houses. But the fifth house shows your children and how they're doing, what they're like, what they're into, what's going well, what's going badly. Again, it depends what the card is. So if you get the Devil reverse in the fifth house, that's your child's self, right? The first is the self. So if you're dealing with the first child and you've got the Devil reverse, this child is struggling. So I actually got the star here, and it's kind of hard to know what to say about my daughter because she's represented by the star. So she's in good shape, she's motivated, she's doing what she does, right? So also I wrote down it's a major trump to remind myself. So the star upright is a major trump. So it's as if it's saying she's on the right path, because with major trumps, a major trump upright can show things going well physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually, right? In all these different kinds of areas of life. With a major trump upright, it looks good. So if somebody wants to know, am I going to find the love of my life, and you get a major trump upright, the answer is yes, because you're going to find somebody you're compatible with physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. You're going to be on the same page in all these different areas. So it looks good for a deep compatibility with another person. Whereas if the major trump is upside down, if it's reversed, then maybe you're physically attracted to the person, but you have nothing to talk about, right? There's no mental connection between you, or maybe you believe in very different things, so there's no spiritual connection, or that's the area that's lacking. So with a major trump upright, when it comes to partnerships, let's say, it's a good sign of compatibility with somebody, or finding somebody, or somebody finding you that you're on the same page as. Whereas if it's upside down, something important is lacking, is missing. Okay, so that's why I say with the star upright in my fifth house, my daughter's on the right path, whatever it is that she's doing. And the other thing is, again, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself, but the 10th house shows the career of the individual. And so I'll get to my 10th house in a couple of videos' time. But my daughter's career, she's a lawyer, but she got bored of being a lawyer. So she decided she wanted to be a writer, which works well with the star. But her business is my second house is her 10th. So my second house is the Two of Pentacles reversed. And at the moment, because of this lockdown, Eric, my grandson, is with her all the time, and she doesn't get time to write at the moment because Eric's 6.5, and you have to deal with him. So she doesn't have time to spend as long as she would like writing. So she's got the Two of Pentacles upside down, and it's a bit like, how does she juggle? How does she balance daycare or looking after Eric as well as her own important projects? And it's upside down, so she's struggling a bit with it at the moment. So the sixth house represents sickness. A lot of people will tell you the sixth house represents health, but it shows sickness. So the sixth house is sickness, service, and it's also work as well. If you're being paid to work at something, then look to the sixth house to show, because sometimes people want to know, am I going to be laid off, or how are things going to go at work? And so you look to the card in the sixth house for information about that person's work situation. And so if you get good cards there, things will go well. If you get bad cards, there are difficulties, and depending on the nature of the card and the suit, you're going to know what kind of difficulties the person's going to experience. So with Pentacles upside down, they're not being paid enough, or they're not going to get the raise that they were promised. With Cups upside down, there are difficulties with co-workers, for instance, or the person's not happy doing the work that they're doing, right? Because sometimes you just don't, you do the job because you're paid, but you hate every minute of it. I've got a kind of cold. Okay. Sixth house, sickness at the moment. So I've got the Six of Cups here. So Six of Cups is upright. So my health is fine at the moment. My sickness is nothing to be concerned about. So when it comes to medical matters, if you're not a doctor, a qualified, licensed medical doctor, you ought not to give medical advice. But I think it's okay with the tarot to give generally helpful, useful information. So if the person's anxious, give them suggestions about what they can do to relieve their anxiety in a non-medical way. Right? You can't prescribe chemicals, but you can suggest going for a walk and meditating and reading poetry and breathing deeply a couple of times a day and sitting with your back straight and so on. Whereas if they've got a physical problem, then you can suggest exercise and yoga and again walking and so on. And things like, if you're sitting at a desk all day, stand up for 5 minutes and walk around once an hour. That kind of general good advice, I think, is valid with the tarot. And you're also not getting into heavy duty medical stuff. So with me, I was trying to think of what to say about the Six of Cups. So maybe I should stay hydrated, because cups is liquid, and I don't drink alcohol, but I drink tea and coffee. But maybe I should drink more water, is what I thought with the Six of Cups. It was upright, so I think it's not a problem, or it's not serious, but maybe if I'm going to take anything from the Six of Cups, I would make sure that I stay hydrated, only because people tell me it's important to stay hydrated. I don't know whether you need 8 cups of water a day. Some people say you do. Maybe I'll try it and see how it goes, and make a point of drinking water throughout the day instead of not bothering, which is what I normally do. Okay, so the other thing is that Six of Cups in the Sixth House didn't really speak to me, didn't say that much. I struggled to make much of it. So maybe it's because it's because it's not so much my sickness that the card is telling me about. Maybe it's telling me about my child's value sense, or it's telling me about my partner's karma, which we'll get to with the 12th house. So again, if you look at a card and you live with it for a bit, for a few hours or a day, and see what sense you can make of it or what you get out of it. But if you find that after a day there's nothing much to say about it, then put it aside for the moment, because it belongs to somebody else, or to somebody else in your life. When you want information about their life, that card that you can't make sense, that doesn't say much to you, has got something important to say about some area of the other person's life. Okay, I hope that wasn't too confusing. It can be in the beginning when you've got this idea of turning the chart, as you say, or renumbering the houses, but you get the hang of it. If you struggled right now, you'll be okay tomorrow or next week. Okay, so that's it for this one. Next will be the 7th, 8th, and 9th houses. But I may put in a little one in between. I'll see how it goes. Thank you very much for watching. Have a good day. Bye-bye.